She's been there for 2 years.
I know who she is. I don't know, remember why.
Never mind.
Next was a cello. And so she does.
She and I don't have a
That's really good school. So, like July, every day she goes out with the grad students. So like, it's like a conservatory. So now that's the issue. One does. Hey Greg, how are you?
All right, I wanted to call this meeting to order. We have all board members present. I want to thank everybody for coming. As you know, we've gone through a lengthy process, the superintendent interview process, interviewed a number of candidates, which brings us to where we are today. The first item on the agenda is the election of the superintendent of schools. Mr. Dell.
Mr. Chairman, based on the receipt of the letter from the Commissioner of Education granting this board the approval to extend the appointment of Ms. Borges as acting superintendent, and being that she has been accepted to a school leadership program, I would like to move to appoint Heather Borges as superintendent of schools, conditioned upon her obtaining her 093 certification by December 31, 2026, and successful negotiation of a contract.
Motion by Ms. Bedell, for the second.
I'll second.
Second by Mr. O'Brien. Any discussion?
Yeah, go ahead. Has there been a contract yet drawn up? And if so, has anyone seen it?
No, there's not. That part of the motion was upon successful negotiation of a contract, first we would appoint her, then we would negotiate the contract.
Okay, so you buy the house first and then you decide how much you're gonna pay for it, kind of thing?
No,
As a
basically-
realtor, that's how I see it. So we haven't seen any contract, how do we know what we're signing up for?
Well, it would be based on the successful negotiation of a contract. If we are not able to successfully negotiate a contract, which once it's negotiated, it'll come back to the board for a full review, the board would vote on it. If the board at that point decides not to accept the contract, then we would have to move into another direction or go back to the negotiating table. Standard procedure to do this, it was the same way it was done with the last guy, and it's done. This is the recommendation of our attorney.
I heard otherwise, so that's why I'm wondering, so, okay.
That was not my understanding of the last time this had happened.
Right, because to Ms. D'Angelo Power's point, like, how can you enter into something that you don't know what the terms of it will be? What if what if the contract cannot be agreed on?
Well,
Then we'd go back to the
then we'd
table.
have to be back to we'd be back to the drawing board. So the
Wouldn't that be
motion
showing
was,
our hand, though, to-
huh?
Wouldn't that be showing our hand to any potential?
No.
No, it would be upon, it
Negotiations happen behind closed doors.
would be upon or obtaining a Row 93 and the successful negotiation of the contract. And the language of that motion was given to us by our attorney, so.
I guess I would just wanna put on the record some concerns I've had about this whole process.
Okay.
And I wrote a couple points down just so that I stick on topic. So throughout this superintendent search, I'll be honest, I've grown increasingly concerned about the lack of transparency, consistency, and adherence to best practices. A leadership search of this magnitude should be conducted with rigor, professionalism, and a clear commitment to fairness, focusing on the needs of our students, staff, and the broader community. Unfortunately, the way this process has unfolded raises legitimate questions about whether all candidates were evaluated equitably and according to the same standards. We should have followed a straightforward, structured process that honored deadlines, met certification requirements, and ensured that every applicant, internal or external, received a fair and thorough review. To me, this is not about an individual at all. It's about preserving the integrity of a process that should inspire confidence, not confusion or concern. When guidelines are not consistently followed and community stakeholders are left in the dark, it undermines the trust essential to any successful leadership transition. From the outset, it was clear that the majority of this board had a predetermined outcome in mind, effectively sidelining qualified candidates who followed the proper application process. Ms. Borges has served this district with dedication as acting superintendent. The hiring process in this case departed significantly from the standard procedures we typically uphold. What's especially troubling is that this process didn't even begin to mirror the rigor and structure we consistently uphold when hiring. Think of our assistant superintendent hiring process, or our recent school principals. Those roles typically involve at least 3 rounds, including job posting, applications, screening, panel interviews, clearly defined evaluation criteria. Ironically, those standards were upheld in large part thanks to the professionalism and diligence of Ms. Borges herself. Yet now, the majority of this board seems to be willing to abandon those same standards, not only for the other qualified candidates, but even for Ms. Borges. She and every applicant deserved the same professional courtesy and thoughtful process that we insisted on for every other leadership position in this district. And that I do not feel has happened.
Any other questions, comments? No? Okay, I'll go to a roll call vote. Ms. Carol Fabian.
Abstain.
I don't have bylaws. I don't know that you can abstain, unless you have a clear conflict.
Abstention is recognized as an option for any board member, particularly when there are ethical or procedural concerns. Robert's Rules of Order, if you follow, do not prohibit abstentions.
That's Robert's Rules of Order, not our bylaws.
There's nothing in our bylaws and Robert's rules supersede that.
There's nothing that gives you the right to abstain.
I have every right to abstain.
Well,
When the process is flawed, an abstention is valid in principled choice, and I stand by it.
We'll give you by that. I'll let you go. Mr. O'Brien?
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. Cormier?
Yes.
Ms. D'Angelo Power?
Abstain.
The chair votes yes, the motion passes 5-0, 2 abstentions. Ms. Bedell?
The board, I'd like to make a motion that the board chair and the board attorney are authorized to participate in negotiations with Ms. Borges, regarding the terms of the contract with superintendent, subject to full board approval.
Motion by Ms. Bedell,
Second.
second by Mr. Kennedy. Any discussion? Roll call vote. Ms. Carol Fabian?
No.
Mr. O'Brien?
Yes.
Ms. Bedell?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. Cormier?
Yes.
Ms. D'Angelo Powers?
No.
Chair votes yes, motion passes 5-2. I will say that anybody who followed this process will see that it was completely transparent as the law allowed. And if they look at the last round, which a number of our ex-board members were on, this was significantly more transparent than the last round was. The public was involved in this process, right up to the point where they couldn't be. So I want to thank you for all your input. I want to thank you for the involvement that you've had. We will enter into negotiations for the contract, and once that has been successfully negotiated, we will bring it back to the board for their review and their vote. So, thank you. Congratulations, Ms. Portis. Next motion on the agenda would be the bylaws. So you've all been given a copy of it. We spent about a year going through it at various meetings. The committee consisted of myself, Ms. Bedell, Ms. D'Angelo Powers, and Attorney Floric. There's a lot of redundancies, a lot of inconsistencies, a lot of fluff that didn't necessarily, but bylaw should be a document that basically dictates how you run the board. So we went through it, spent a lot of time doing it, had our attorneys review it, who gave it the thumbs up. They had some small adjustments, which we have made through the process. So you all, I believe, have the finalized copy of it. You've been given the red line copy. It's been a lot of push and shove throughout the process, so some of the exact details weren't totally detailed, but the final product is, and you can compare it to the original draft if you have any questions. But does anybody have any? Well, it actually will start for a motion to accept the bylaws as a first read. So moved by Mr. O'Brien, second by Ms. Bedell. Any discussion? Now that the motion has been made, now we can move into discussion. And just so we're clear, there is in the new bylaws that if it's not dictated in the bylaws, then Robert's rules would dictate, which that's where my confusion was. The new bylaws state that every board member must vote on every matter unless they have a clear personal conflict. So I don't remember if it was in the old bylaws, that's why I let it go, but in the new bylaws, every board member must vote on every issue. There are no abstentions. We are all elected to vote and serve and vote. So anyway, but if anyone has questions, comments, concerns?
Just to clarify on that, so the current bylaws that we're under, because we haven't first read this and voted on it, allows you to abstain from the vote. It doesn't have any language in there prohibiting you from abstaining, so I just want to clarify that. And when we go through this, do you want to go through it page by page, or are we gonna just jump around, or how?
We can do it any way you guys want.
Okay. Well, if anyone else has anything you want to go on, I have some points that I pulled out here, for some languages throughout.
Well, we'll let you start off.
Thank you. One thing that I wanted to bring up, in one of the meetings, John Floric was gonna bring back, the conflict of interest, and he brought it back, but I didn't see it entered into here. I have a note that says Teresa will send updated policy on it. He presented what the town council used, and he redacted the town council, and then he used his own verbiage, but that never was entered into our new bylaws. And that goes over the conflict of interest if you're a board member, and it defines the family, relatives, spouse, parent, grandparent, brother, sister, uncle, niece, that entire sheet.
What page is it now, Jill?
The conflict of interest is on page 24.
So was that conflict of interest language that John came up with was supposed to go into board policies? Was that the case?
We had said in the redacted version that I saw that we were just waiting on John Floric to bring us this, and then it was gonna go onto the same page with this rest of this
Okay.
verbiage. But I never saw it, entered onto this, so.
Teresa, maybe you can confirm, I thought on that conflict, you might not remember, but I
I'll
thought
go
on the.
back, I'll go back through the video, but I do remember that we put in the as defined in board policy 5112.8 because we wanted it to be the same language that the policy said, defining who immediate family members were.
Right, and it's easier to change the
And I know
policies
that
than
John
it is
said he
the-
had some changes, and we didn't pull the document out and actually speak to it when he said that day, but we did decide to put in there as defined in board policy 5112.8, and I can go back through video and.
Okay. So it is, and it is detailed in here at the final board policy 512.
Yep, but has it been brought to policy yet?
No, because it's already an existing policy.
So we need to amend that policy to match that language.
Maybe not, we'd have to look at that policy to see if that, I mean, we're referring to the policy that exists. Immediate it says, accruing to a board member, officer, employee, or their immediate relatives as defined in board policy 5112. So the immediate relatives is defined in 5112.8.
Currently, yes, but we were going to amend that language per the discussion with John.
Maybe, we can amend that
In policy.
In that last
Right.
meeting we had too, he had brought this up, and
Right.
that it wasn't entered, so in my big stack, I found it.
I do remember him saying
Yeah.
that we were going to define it in policy because it's easier to pull a policy than it is if we need to redefine it some way, which is fine in here, but I think that language needs to be submitted to policy as well. And
We'll actually be meeting policy tomorrow, so we can bring it up.
yeah, I think then we let policy bring that up, but at least that policy exists now, right, Teresa? That hasn't been renumbered in policies yet?
I will have to look for that because I think the numbering may be off on that policy.
Yeah, so we need to check that.
But
I mean, this is just a
Because
first.
conflict
so-
of interest should be, I'm thinking that maybe 4112.8, that's what I'm doing right now, is trying to.
And we did, I think we had quite a bit of discussion about it, and I think we
We did.
decided to leave it somewhat generic, because to try and define every singular nuance would create a document and a half on its own.
We definitely did, but this language was a bit different than what our policy had stated. Our policy was a little broader than that, so.
Yeah, that should be 4112.8.
What was it, 4
112.8.
to, okay.
On page 27, I would like to make a motion to change it from parents in the first paragraph to parents and legal custodians.
So that was the language we decided on, right? Yeah.
Parents
So,
and
so
custodians.
just maybe make a motion to change all the language.
Okay, I didn't see any others, that was the only one I saw, so that's fine.
But-
Change all the language from parents to parent and legal custodian.
Yeah. And that was something we had agreed upon, so Teresa, if we can, and if you have some examples of that, if you can just send, maybe just that one or the
Okay.
others.
So that one, there's a lot of pages, sorry.
A lot less than it was.
Half of what it used to be.
If anyone else has anything, they could jump in and I will find some.
I got one minor typo on 9230, orientation of board members.
What page?
I don't have page
Bottom.
numbers on this one. Just 9230.
There is no 9230.
What did I get here? This is I picked up.
Oh, it's 9240, board member orientation and professional development,
Where'd you pick that up?
which would be page 21.
There's way too many versions.
Oh. Well, it's just on number 4, I don't know if you have the same thing, it says strongly encouraged to attend should be encouraged, there should be a D on the encourage. You have that, has that already been changed?
I think we have it under number 3 on 9240. All members shall be strongly encouraged to
No,
attend
that's-
locally
that's the
sponsored
wrong-
workshops.
That's the wrong version.
Is it?
Yeah.
That's the one I picked up coming in.
But on that same page, while we're figuring that out, page 21, in the 5th paragraph, it says orientation, in addition, the chairperson shall schedule within 30 days of each election. It should say within 30 days after each election, because we don't know who is scheduling. If it's within 30 days of the election, it should be after the election, within 30 days after the election.
Well, it's just,
I'm just saying add the word after. Because otherwise you could have an orientation with every candidate running for, if they did it beforehand. I was just looking at that word because it sounds funny to me, within 30 days of each election. I'm thinking it leading up until the election. It was only one thing to add that word after. And
Then grammatically correct, the chairperson shall schedule,
comma, within 30 days of each election.
I got this one.
Orientation of the board.
should say within 30 days following
Okay,
the
following,
election.
yeah.
It's-
Okay.
Sure, following, I'm okay with that.
You got that one, Teresa?
I got it.
Thank you.
And being that this is a first read, we'll skip all the formalities of motions for grammatical changes.
On page 18, attendance in standing committees, there's a him, her. Can we change that to they? Thank you. I have another question on that same page 18. For athletic review, policy review, and personnel committee, they have no definitions after them defining their roles, where all the other standing committees do have definitions. Should we add definitions to what their responsibilities are?
I mean, we could do that at a later point, if you wanna do that.
I was just saying that since we're doing the policy bylaw revision now, we should probably add it in there.
Well, and that might be a little bit of a lengthier conversation to try and define those roles, but we'll definitely.
We're gonna just,
Well, let's have-
we're gonna have that type of conversation tomorrow at the athletic review committee. Kind of the resolution of the review committee.
Yeah, 'cause it's kind of important, because if someone comes on and doesn't know their responsibilities and they get put on that committee, then they'll see what their roles and responsibilities are, so.
So then have the chairperson of each committee
So
come
why
up
don't,
with the roles.
so why don't you and Lisa do personnel?
Yeah,
Bill and I will do policy, and then Bill and Lisa will do.
Sean and Lisa.
Sean and Lisa will do athletic review, and then we can add that in at the second read. And give us 30 days to go through that.
You got another one over there?
Go, please.
My question is, I noticed in our original or current bylaws, there is a section 9011A, accountability. Seems to me that accountability has been taken out of the bylaws.
I think we've added that into another section. 90, well, we have 90, what page? 9011?
In the current bylaws, it doesn't have a page number, but it's 9011A,
in the current.
accountability. Everything's like crossed out and nothing references that it's being moved to a different section, so it just looks like accountability is completely taken out, including in the table of contents, it's not listed anywhere. So I'm wondering why we are, removing any accountability.
9011A. So some of it we moved to duties, some of it was already stated in other sections.
A lot of it was moved on.
We, we removed the section where the public is accountable, because these are board bylaws. Public bylaws along with the superintendent and administration. Again, these are all board bylaws, and we don't have a right to dictate how the superintendent, the administration, or the public must behave. But some of it we did move, some of it was already stated. The first item, being responsive to community's desires and concerns, already stated. Carrying out its mandate to plan policy.
Can you just point me, I guess, in the direction of where in the new draft I would be able to find what the board is accountable for?
Okay.
That's in duties, it's on, starts on page 1.
Connecticut General Statutes, referred to, that's the one I cited.
Okay, yeah.
Remember, wow, I don't remember who the attorney was referring to the
John.
Connecticut General Statutes, the duties of boards of education
Mhm.
listed. That's the part that's stated for accountability for boards of education. The duties of boards of education, it refers to, it's still, what's left is legal reference referring to the Connecticut General Statutes. That's it's straight Connecticut
Policy.
General Statutes policy.
So, yeah, to select, employ, and evaluate an able and qualified superintendent would be on page 1, item 1. So they're all in here, the ones that we felt that should be in there.
And the reference to the Connecticut General Statutes.
One, yeah, that was placed in duties as well. 11. And then we moved the duties, request, the third item, requesting and we change resources to data, requesting the data necessary to effectively complete the budget process, which would be under, that's where we originally moved it to, but that might be under establishing the budget. And then the communication part was item 4, being responsive to community concerns regarding bodies of the school system.
The budget stuff was moved under the state committees.
And number 6 would be requesting the data and information necessary under duties.
Under duties.
There are all the things you're looking for on the first page, under duties.
Under those duties, under, number 7, we changed the verbiage to approve and present to the town council the annual budget in accordance with state statutes. It was originally prepare and present to the town council the annual budget in accordance with the state statutes. I think that we're saying that we're limiting the amount of, responsibility the board has in the budget by saying that we're just presenting it.
We say approve and present.
So if we approve it, does it give us any negotiating to be able to approve it?
What do you mean
Before, we're
negotiating
working
where?
together with them on it, now we're just approving it, so.
Well, item number 6 also says requesting the data and information necessary to complete the budget process.
But in order to approve it, we have to have the discussion to approve it, so.
And if we don't approve it?
Well, the board has to approve the budget.
Yeah, the board has to approve something
So
to go forward.
we have to have some negotiating skills there. I feel like just saying approved means that we're just gonna rubber stamp it and send it over.
No, approve is a process. It's a process that allows for discussion, debate, compromise, followed finally by a vote of the majority of the board. I mean, who would we be negotiating with?
well, working together with the superintendent on the budget before we present it to the town council. That's why we took it out, because we said that the superintendent with the financial officer prepare we don't prepare it, they prepare it, but we work together on that before we send it over to the board. We don't just approve what they present to us.
Well, item 6 says requesting the data and information necessary to complete the budget.
I think we need that too, but I was just thinking that in the last verbiage, it's saying prepare and present, so it gives us more of a role in it. Now we're just approving it.
I don't think we prepare it though, the superintendent prepares it, presents it to us.
Well,
And it's our job to review and approve it, and request the information.
But
which
we
it
might
says
not
here.
always agree with the presentation that we're
No.
getting presented, so.
Right, but eventually we have to approve something to go over to town.
Mhm.
So if we don't approve it, then it doesn't go anywhere.
Can I ask a question? Was prepare part of what you approved, what you guys passed during the committee?
No, we
No,
took the word prepare
we
out.
took the
We,
word prepare
we,
out.
we don't prepare the budget, the
So
superintendent.
during bylaws,
Yeah, they took that out. I just think it reads better,
I
so.
thought it was missed, I thought it was missed.
No, but prepare is not the board's responsibility. It's the responsibility of the superintendent and her staff and administration to prepare the budget. Then they present it to us, at which point we discuss that budget process. We request the data and information necessary to complete it. And state statute dictates how the process works, which is we approve it, we send it to the mayor, who sends it to the board, to the council, who then votes on it, sends it back to us. I think this year, hopefully, fingers crossed, in 20 years I've been doing it, that we will get a budget back from the council that actually matches ours.
And the other one is, 10 on there, to initiate and approve acquisitions and dispositions of school sites. Do we do that, or is that the town that does that?
I mean, the actual buildings are physically owned by the town, but whether or not it's a school site is the decision of the board. Whether or not it is still a school, or still a place where children live.
Anything else? All right, so Therese, if you could, any of the grammatical changes, if you could redline them, and make that part of the, and I don't know if there's an easier way, I hate to make you print, 45 pages times however many you gotta do. Maybe if you could just detail a list, make the changes on the template, but make a list of the grammatical changes and the page and number they're on, and give us that list instead of having to give us a whole new,
I think we
I
should
can
do a
send
whole
it to you
document.
electronically,
Okay.
and then I can send
Yeah.
it electronically and
Yeah,
send you
yeah,
the
no,
template.
that's-
I'm tired of printing green.
Yeah, no, I think we need a whole new document, because
however you
we all
guys
need to
want
be
it.
on the
yeah,
same
if
document.
anybody ever needs copies of any of this stuff, just ask Teresa, she'll print
Right.
it for you. It might require you having to take a trip down to this building, but if you need copies.
We'll get it to you.
I asked for the red line copy, but I got denied and had to go through you to get that, so I figure just print it myself.
Well, but she did get it to you. So, all right, are there any other questions at this point? No? I look for a motion, the motion has been made to accept as a first read, pending any grammatical changes that Teresa will get to us, and we will get the definitions for those 3 committees, as Ms. D'Angelo Flowers
And
requested.
the conflict of interest.
And the conflict of interest page, which we will clean up and define. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. passed unanimously. Thank you. That's it. Look for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Mr. O'Brien, seconded by Mr. Cormier. Mr. Cormier, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed unanimously. Thank you for coming. Appreciate all your support.
Wow.